mics are on. Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you. I'd like to call this February 5th work session to order. The topic for discussion is pedestrian flow on Port Avenue. I believe a lot of us have some input here and we have some discussion about this. A request from Board Member Regis to make some initial comments.
We can go up to Tony. If you want, I mean, he has something, we can go up to that or whatever, but.
Yeah, let's jump right into it here. So along Port Avenue, just from the port along Port Avenue itself down to 4th Avenue is a kind of it's a multi-use user group area. It sees a lot of traffic. Currently we have the sidewalk on the north side that we sort of try to shuffle everyone along. And the city's plan, and has been tabled until after the new terminal is built, to sort of to see what direction we want to take with this. But on the two handouts we have on the shuttle stop schedule, you'll see each one will be numbered as a stopping point. And the plan along Port Avenue is to have little kiosks where people could take a break. There would be a QR code on there. You could scan in to get some information where you're at, where the bus stops are located at, and but not have an actual pickup point for the shuttle stop, just because of the way the road is designed and the businesses in that area. There's not a niche to put that in, to have an actual stop until you get into sort of the harbor proper area. If you look at the screen now, you can kind of see all the industrial area and just see how congested it is. So you'll have the travel lift is a heavy user of that area. Buses and then all just the cargo leaving to go up the highway as well too. So, and maybe Dwayne, you could talk about passenger flow from your standpoint.
Yeah, I can for just a little bit. And there's a little bit of work that's been done. So as you folks are aware, we're starting our project, and the new terminal building footprint is going to be over here. And then this is going to be more parking for coaches largely and smaller vehicles out closer to Port Avenue. We'll be recovering the former coal office area. Currently we have an operator in there that's doing a boat storage business, and we're working to accommodate them to move that yard north. And as part of the work we've been doing, the coal handling equipment has come off the former coal dock. But you can see, of course, here's this towers here, but this conveyor system has been removed. And currently, as in last season, we would have a lot of people on foot traveling this pedestrian pathway, crossing at this crosswalk, getting onto the sidewalk to the north, and then heading down to the depot. Of course, there's transportation that will take those folks, but sometimes if there's, 100 people in a line, they'll want to take their bags. And one thing that we've been talking about, I've had conversations with our dock engineer, is to utilize potentially this underpass. And so rather than having pedestrians go across the road, because we still have traffic, they would go underneath, and then there would be a switchback, whatever grade would be required to accommodate folks or wheelchairs, what have you. Then they would get over to the north side without having to cross the road surface. That's just one idea that we have. But as everybody here knows, on any given day, I mean, we could have a double tanker from shoreside pulling down this road. We can have, a ship lift, a travel lift, excuse me, operating. Of course, our own motor coaches for the cruise ship traffic. And so anyway, it's busy. And as folks have noted, we try to keep people on the sidewalk, which is on the north side, but for whatever reason, people oftentimes, particularly if they're returning, they like to be on the other side of the road. And, you know, you have loading bays at the back end of the fishery. It's, you know, forklift operation. It's just, anyway, we could certainly make some improvements along the way. And whether that's, you know, other sort of signage elements, benches to accommodate folks, what have you. I mean, there are things that we could do to make improvements. But anyway, that's just one feature that I've been thinking about on, you know, the Alaska Railroad end of that route. And as some of you are aware too, we're planning to extend the freight dock. And as part of that project, we're looking at creating a second industrial route out to the Seward Highway. Because this is, you know, this is it. And so we send a lot of rubber tire through here, and we would like to be able to go immediately north and then connect to the highway somewhere before the current airport access. But anyway, that's just another thing that's coming. But first things first, we're going to work on the cruise dock and terminal building replacement. The traffic will change somewhat, but we'll have to engineer the best pedestrian, you know, route possible, because, you know, we're still going to be using that depot. But we do have, you know, cruise trains that pull up to the terminal building, and we'll pull up to the new terminal building. But anyway, that's just one aspect that I was thinking about to try to improve the pedestrian flow for folks who are on foot.
If I could respond to some of that. I did work at the coal terminal years ago and observed the pedestrian flow there, and it hasn't really changed much since then. I think one of the key features that's missing there is an inviting reason to cross the street. Other than that painted crosswalk, there's nothing that would cue a pedestrian to want to go across the street. And then similar to a lot of the sidewalks in town, that Port Avenue sidewalk is not in great repair, and there's also no separation from the curb to the sidewalk to make it look like a sidewalk. So those are some observations. I've had to deal with pedestrian traffic there with heavy equipment and loaders in the middle of summer, and it's just they want to walk on the street because it's nicer. And about that tunnel, it does flood, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my concerns about the tunnel would be the same issue that we have with the current tunnel under the highway. Are people going to use it, or are they just going to cross on the street anyway?
That can be made to look really nice, though. It can be, there's a nice park-like feel with the greenery around there. I really like that idea. You could do a really nice job with some landscaping and make people want to go down there.
Right. So at this point, we've removed the conveyor system that went under the road, and that's where we're at. So it's just an idea. A lot of the structures that you see over in the former coal office area, coal facility office area, that'd have to be all taken care of as well as part of the improvements.
So we were on several meetings when I was acting city manager. So the big thing is getting them to the north side of the road. And so we're going to know that Catalyst Marine had designed some kind of a bench area with a cover to get them out of the rain in several locations going down on that north side of the road. And also there was talk about maybe someplace that paw prints, follow the paw prints to keep them on to, make them cross over. I think we did fish way back when. If I remember right, I think we had fish on the sidewalk to try to keep them over there. I mean, we brought them when we did the walkway. We got the fence right up to the edge of the road and a crosswalk there, but they just go around the fence and walk down the south side. They won't move over. And there's signage there. I think Christie gave us a sign. We put it up to move to the other side of the road. It doesn't. You got to get them to the other side of the road, and I think that. But I think those bus stop areas or those rain shelters, you can call them whatever, we'll maybe move them over. You know, we were talking about putting one right, let's see, right here, so when they see it come across, they can get out of the rain right there.
Yeah.
And then a couple more down further, just so they can stop and get out of the rain. And in there, they'll have the kiosk, like I said, you can scan it with your phone and tell you where things are at. So that was part of the things, and then every stop, they were talking about putting in one of those covers to keep the folks out of the rain with a bench, so.
And Ben, if I could add also, along the south side, there was discussion of just putting up fencing or some sort of barricades, and that would serve a dual purpose to
Yeah.
deflect the traffic to the north, and then also just hide some of the yard art that's along those industrial areas as well.
Could you put something on the road that says no walking, like lines or
We've had it.
something?
We've had
Have you
it.
tried that?
Yeah, we've had it.
Doesn't work.
And then, so for the things too, we had talked with the mural folks, and they were gonna actually, on the south side, on the north side of the Swordfish, that one big black blank wall, they're gonna put a mural on that. They already talked, of course, now it's OBI, but when we discussed it, they were in the process of changing it, but they could put a mural on that building, which would make it better looking, you know, for them walking up and down, you know, just to show not just industrial area, but, you know, something nicer than just a big blue wall.
If I might, we don't have anyone from community development here, but I think I think both of you have mentioned this, you know, having signage on the ground to lead folks the way we want them to go, I think is really smart. Considering one, I mean, it's pretty hard to get confused if you say, hey, stay on the paw prints or stay on the yellow or whatever we decide to go with. But also, you know, the way people are today with phones, they're not looking up as much as they're looking down anyway. So I think it would make sense to have directional signage, you know, paint, you know, on the ground to get people on the right path, so to speak.
It's an interesting case study in human behavior. To sit there and watch it, it's,
Yellow brick road, follow
Yeah,
yellow brick
right.
road.
yeah.
Something like that.
The tunnel is, it's a really interesting idea though, because it adds some interest to that path that,
Yeah. so-
outside of the, it would give them an option too.
Sure, yeah, and right, so that would also just keep people from crossing the road, the surface at that point.
Yeah.
You probably have to raise the road because the low water table there is not gonna.
Yeah, the engineers will have to put their heads on
Yeah.
what modifications we will need to do, but at least there is, you know, an opening under the road that could facilitate that, so.
Nor, maybe you can answer my question. Is there any data that shows how much people are using the existing tunnel that's under the highway? I mean, I still see people darting across the highway to
Yeah,
get to Safeway, so.
I think a lot of the locals use it, not so much the guys at the fisheries. They kind of come out of the bunkhouse, just go up the hill, climb up the hill and across. Dwayne knows, I mean, they're not
Yeah.
supposed to go across railroad property, but they do have a path, but they end up, the linemen just put in all new lights in there, so it's all lit up now, so.
So I don't know if we're looking for any kind of action agenda items. I realize we just have a sort of freewheeling discussion going on what's existing and some ideas that we could implement going forward.
Yeah, I don't, Ben, if you want to
Yes.
ask, maybe ask the public if they have something.
Yeah, and I had one question too. Have we had any pedestrian accidents or anything? Has this been it's slow enough through there that I think,
I can't remember any.
I can't think of
so
one.
it's more of a nuisance and a potential for an accident.
The only thing that really happens is, you know, it doesn't really happen, well, it does happen. It's pretty narrow when travelers going down, then you got buses, and then the people are walking down the road, so we have to stop the travel lift, and, or the people will see it and they'll move off to the side, but that's the only dangerous part, is them on the side of the travel lift, where there's no sidewalk, so. Or if we're on the other side coming down in the buses, some of them are scared to drive, and so they're actually up a little bit on the other thing where people are walking on the south side. So.
Right, yeah, so we identify the problem, we just slow enough, we've been lucky. Okay. Yeah, so we do have citizens in the audience, so I would like to invite any public comment if you want to come up and state your name.
I have a quick comment. Do you
Sure.
need me to come up and state my name?
Or you can hear, I think.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm with the Chamber. I'm borrowing from a Royal Caribbean guest, satisfaction survey that they put out to the people who come to Seward. This was from 2023. And it really echoes a lot of what was just said about the need for wayfinding and directions to the railroad terminal and just like clearer walking instructions along that Port Avenue. So really you're hitting the nail on the head with what those guests from that ship in 2023 said.
Okay.
I just want to put out, so we've talked about, I know this is, sorry, Stephanie Mullane with the Seward Chamber. We're talking about wayfinding and how people tend to move despite the signage. There is a case study from Walt Disney World when they initially built Walt Disney. They had beautiful, clear paths, good signage. They wanted everybody to follow those paths, but people were cutting corners and making paths of their own. And they shifted their entire mindset to, we need to follow the path that people are following. And that's how they worked out their movement through their park. We're not Walt Disney World, I'm not trying to make that equation, but I know it's a difficult area to work with, but if people are chronically moving through areas we don't want them to move through, they're probably going to continue to do so, and so we'll have to figure out how to solve that for that problem too. I think they're always going to walk in the road, no matter how much beautiful signage we put up, unfortunately, unless we create something really specific that fits the needs that they're trying to meet.
Yeah.
It's a fun space to work with. Good luck.
So I just question, why do we not have a sidewalk on the south side? Is it because of the fisheries and the?
There's a lot of infrastructure there. They come almost out to the road. So, I mean, that was one of the main reasons. All the electrical is under there, for running all the way down Port Avenue. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. That's for one of the reasons that we were told why there was no sidewalk, because put a sidewalk over, utility easement, then something happens.
Is there any enforcement, is there anybody down there to police presence maybe that says, hey, you need to be on the sidewalks?
Well, I can speak to what we do at the terminal, and that's, we provide directions. We get a lot of people who are asking us, oh, well, how do I get to the depot? How far is the depot? And we'll provide the directions, and we'll direct them down the pedestrian path, tell them to get over onto the sidewalks, in the north, go down. And so and we have, high-vis, gear on, and they're also, managing vehicle traffic. But so on the terminal building end, yes. And then I think that's pretty much it, though. There isn't anybody along, the traveled way for that 3.5 blocks or so of Port Avenue.
I know they tried other things too, that previous city manager had buckets with flags in it on one side and on the other side. So where they would cross, they would pick up a flag and walk across to be visible. It worked okay until it became a trash collection area. So, but yeah, it didn't work very well. But that was trying to get them to cross. Like I said, we put that fence right up to the edge of the road, and they still come down that south side. But I think a little like a area to get out of the rain, and they'll see something or. Yeah. So, I mean, there's not much room here, like with the sidewalk, there's not much room here on this side until you get past here. But, they're talking about putting one here so people can see them when they come here. They can cross over and they see get out of the rain here. I think we're talking about putting one in front of Shoreside's fence right there.
There's no shuttle stops in those spots, though,
No,
right?
but we're just doing it to keep getting them out of the rain, because if they're walking to the train station there, then the depot, then they can get out of the rain for a minute, and they can, like I said, it'd be a kiosk with something there, and they can put on their phone.
While we have that picture up, There's that, the Lear Road Port Avenue intersection with flooding that occurs there.
It says
Is
low
that-
water table, so right back here, there's a creek, and it's a spring, comes around, and also drains into the harbor on this side over here.
Right.
Just through groundwater, and if you ever notice, there's just a culvert there, and it's just all groundwater pouring out of it. But it's a low water table, because this vault right here fills up with water,
Okay.
and it's probably froze solid right now.
There was a bit of a speed hump there last night.
Yeah.
So is that ever a problem during the tourist season, or?
If we're in a big rain event, water comes down that dirt road and then comes across.
So that's certainly an obstacle that,
Like when we had the flood, it came down, went straight across here and washed out this whole area.
yes, absolutely.
One of the things I was going to talk about was drainage. And what happens, when you mentioned that little tunnel going under the road, I don't know how that would work, because over on that side, when they put in the sewer line, I think it was probably 5 feet, you hit water table. And then that can be affected a little bit by tide, I'm not sure. But the water migrates, basically, the water comes down from Jesse Lee, and it gets down into this flat area here. So we have a drainage ditch that run across here that takes a lot of water out. And we really need to maybe extend that underground here to make a French drain so it picks up more water. But along, it was Lear Road here, you notice water running out there on the street. Well, that's because of all that rain we had. And it's higher over here than down here because it's draining. So one of the things that I've been talking to the railroad on was cleaning this ditch out that runs in the woods there that Norman was just talking about. And it runs up past the depot, and it should be cleaned out all the way up past the tunnel, that tunnel there. And if that could be cleaned out a little bit, that would relieve a little bit of the water.
Yeah.
And then the other drainage issue is that the drain that comes down next to the coal pile, that one runs on a culvert underneath, and it's not a very big culvert, it's only about that big, and it drains out to the bay out this way. And I'm gonna have to talk to Christie and Dwayne about, they need to get that on you guys' radar for the railroad to make sure that that drain pipe is on the map, and maybe it needs, those old metal drains, they start to deteriorate. We've had a couple of them cave in, and they only last 20, 30 years, and then they start to plug up. So that one may need to be replaced sometime, but that's, a separate issue. But the other issue, when they paved Port Avenue, I don't know, the engineers come up with a level, they're tying it in with the Seward Highway, and I don't know what the correct level is, but that Port Avenue really cannot be raised much, because it's going to cause drainage problems up this way into the subdivision, the industrial area. And one of the things that tenants keep mentioning is, when are they going to pave these roads here? Well, that's another issue, and what the elevations and how that'll actually work tied in with port would be a question, pretty big question. Sure. Because there's not a lot of these tenants built a little bit too low, and then maybe the roads grew and the buildings didn't. Right. So Swenson had, in the wintertime, one time he had his garage flooded because it would freeze and thaw, and pretty soon the water was running into his garage door, on that building right there. But these two streets here need a little bit of dirt added to them, and I took the initiative and built up the one road here because the drainage was kind of poor. So I had several loads of dirt dumped in there, and it really made a difference. And then the city was able to, city didn't do a very good job putting in the ditches, because I think they didn't want to rock the boat too much there on it, but putting a little gravel on it and then itching in the ditches helped, and we need to do the same thing down on the street by the tank farm there.
Alameda.
That needs to be raised. And my way of doing it is just to go down there and haul in some gravel and have the guys spread it with the truck. And Metco has a guy that can do that, or at least if he's still there. And there's very little disruption. You just maybe lay in, I'm going to say 3 to 4 inches, and then you leave it lay and see what happens. See how it drains. But that drainage is an issue here, and I think that affects any tunnels that you put in there, because I'm not sure. A tunnel has got to be pretty deep. It's got to be 7 feet or something.
It's below grade. I don't know what the depth is exactly, but I would say that, you know, the Alaska Railroad will certainly, you know, participate with the municipality to do any kind of work that needs to be done for a more comprehensive, you know, storm drainage strategy.
See, in cleaning out this ditch over here next to the depot, that isn't going to solve it. It's going to help at least get the water kind of running. And that water runs under the highway and it comes out, I think, in the lagoon there.
By Napa, it comes across.
Yeah, it's the culvert.
Right.
Yeah, it comes
It runs
across
in
here
front of
by
Napa.
Napa, then down underneath Napa's driveway, then across the highway.
Yeah.
And we've seen recently with high tides and south winds that, you know, it doesn't really even drain. You know, it backed up somewhat into the depot parking area recently. So, yeah, drainage throughout that whole industrial area is an issue.
So just want to throw a wrench in it. Just because, let you know, this is also a fish ditch. The fish
Yeah,
club
I
in
know,
here.
right,
So
yeah.
that's gonna create an issue when you go to have to get permitting.
Anadromous waters, creates some
Actually, if
timing
you clean that
issues.
ditch out, you have more fish.
More fish, you're right.
That should be all right, I guess.
It's,
But anyway, that's all I wanted to mention is the drainage, and something that you guys might put on your radar is promoting a little bit, maybe looking at the paving of those roads there.
Right. It would,
Now, another issue, the Lear Road went through the subdivision and then it went out, and when we put this subdivision replat, we had kind of an issue. The railroad does not want to give up 1 inch of track. In other words, this road, I think the railroad kind of tolerates it, but I don't know how you handle that legally, because technically their right-of-way goes out into that road probably at least half the way. And then the other half, we deeded over to this, you know, the right-of-way where the property line is. Whether that road is ever going to be, that used to be the main highway, but whether that's going to, I guess it's going to still be a major road. I mean, you're not going to make it go away.
Is that the road that goes in front of like Avtech down there? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's they call it Lear Road, but it runs out and goes next to the main highway. It's that little road down.
So it goes in front of Avtech and then comes out.
Or Ace Hardware.
Where Napa used to be.
Ace Hardware used to be.
Where the hardware store used to be.
Isn't that where they're talking about running that's not where they're
No.
talking about running the industrial road? That's not the same
No.
area.
No, that would probably be over.
yeah,
That'd
yeah.
go
no.
railroad
got
On
it.
their property.
Right, but to Steve's point, you know, Lear Road is, it travels along the tracks within the railroad right-of-way. The right-of-way for the railroads, many of you already know, is essentially 100 feet on each side of the tracks.
Yeah.
So there's an agreement with the municipality, I understand, for the maintenance of Lear Road. The railroad hasn't been doing
And
that.
I know that was a big issue way back. My dad worked with it, called the BPR. They were pre-statehood, Bureau of Public Roads, and, you know, who's going to grade that? And they kind of got it done, but it was sort of a touchy issue. And But see, what's happened here, a lot of these buildings built too low, so how much can you raise the road? You really, you can't, unless you put in storm drains to catch all the water.
Right.
And so, and then that, whatever is done up here has to be tied in with Port Avenue, so it's a real touchy engineering problem. Now, I don't remember when they rebuilt Port Avenue, whether they raised it or lowered it, but it seems like the engineers didn't come down. There was right on the corner there where that restaurant is.
That was a state project, so the state, when the state redid the Port Avenue to give it to the city as part of an exchange to maintain it, so they redid it.
Is there any plans to repair the sidewalks or repair Port Avenue itself? Because really, I think back to what Sam was saying, if you get off the cruise ship, in my opinion, I've never been on a cruise, but my thought is if I got off and I had to walk through that particular area, I would find it very difficult to manage. It's not very pretty. If the road was in better condition, if the sidewalks were in better condition, we had better signage.
You know what? I thought of an idea while you guys were talking. Why don't you put up some banners or a row of little flags or something that's sort of in a row that makes it look like it's a path? Would that attract people? Maybe some little flags that go up 12 feet or something with a nice little flag on it or something that's blowing around. Would that force people to walk on that side? The north side?
I think anything that's interesting or informational signage, I think there's like the two ends are where people are going to make their decision,
Right.
and on the terminal end, there's a lot of land there that the railroad has now because there's no industrial operation where they could really make that attractive visually. I think.
You mean down here?
Yeah, if you get that, the discharging passengers, I guess, off on that side.
See, we show the little crosswalk.
Yeah,
This picture
it's just not
is
enough.
fairly new, a couple of years.
And could I get you to state your name for the record? I'm sorry,
Steve.
Steve Blair, okay.
Do you know though, or are there any plans to do any improvements on Port Avenue as far as the paving the road or fixing the sidewalks?
I don't know how bad the sidewalk, I don't think it's too bad.
I think the sidewalk's in fairly good shape.
Yeah,
Actually, that's fairly
the road
new.
in front of Seward
About
Fish where
20
the
years.
water main keeps breaking is an issue because they just use concrete instead of paving it, but that's just one spot. There's not very many potholes.
Could ask a question of Sam, maybe. Has anybody from your cruise ship survey complained about the dust from the unpaved roads?
Not that's included in this, no.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
There was one of the answers was they're ugly walking down through there because of the buildings. That's when the Mural Society was gonna put up some murals and stuff.
Yeah, something about, our port that's unique and special is that it's a working port. A lot of Alaskan ports aren't like that. So it gives a different feeling when you get off that cruise ship and you walk down to see the longshoremen and all the other industry going on downtown or down Port Avenue. So finding a way to highlight that and celebrate it can make it interesting. Like you're really visiting a working Alaskan port. So some kind of theme maybe in the wayfinding. The people from Royal Caribbean sort of talked about that.
If I might, yeah, I think Sam's making a good point, because at the end of the day, we have, thousands of visitors going through an industrial area.
Yeah.
So we could try to make the most of it. I think that, this idea of, trying to get sidewalk on the opposite side of the street, if you could do that, it's bisected at so many points, it might be difficult. I understand that, people will take shortcuts and kind of try to travel the way they want to rather than the way it's designed. But, yeah, I think that all the things that we've discussed today would all be helpful, certainly wouldn't hurt.
Who's up first?
I'm just curious, is there a timeline for the alternative route for trucks and buses?
So currently, the development we're working on, the Alaska Railroad's working on, is the cruise terminal and cruise dock replacement. And that's slated to be completed in the spring of '26. The freight dock extension project, we received a MERAD grant for extending that dock by approximately 400 feet, and a component of that grant was safety, creating an alternate industrial route out. But that project doesn't begin really until the cruise dock project's completed. So you're looking at late in '26 before we get started. So that's what I can say.
So that's not gonna change then before construction, so the construction and all the truck hauling equipment back and forth is still gonna go down Port Avenue?
Yeah, so, and there'll be clearly construction on site. There's several acres for the project. We have currently been taking, it's over 40,000 cubic yards of material into our former coal laydown area. That's been happening continuously. So you've seen that going. So that will continue. So yes, work at that level will go as it has been.
Yes.
I'll just state, I'm Stephanie Mullane again. Having lived in Southeast Alaska and also having recently in the last few years spent a fair amount of time in the Caribbean on cruises, it feels like we have a very unique port. In the Caribbean in particular, they go way over the top on their ports. Like you get off a ship and you're in an amusement park basically, and then a half mile later you're in a whole different country. But in Southeast, what the commonality is between all of them is wide walkways, prominent signage, bright, attractive things that draw your attention to the next spot to go. And in Southeast, there's a lot of historic signage, but I think, part of, in my mind, when I think about getting off of a ship in Seward, first it's going to be confusing because you're in an industrial area and it's not a space you're comfortable with most likely. And you're on vacation, so your IQ level drops a few notches because that's what happens to all of us. But, you're looking at a sidewalk that departs immediately left and works around the parking lot, and it's not very wide, and then a narrow walkway across the road, and then a narrow sidewalk. And I think if you were able to find a way to, this is the direction the crowd goes, it's more prominent, it has good signage, it has something that attracts your eye or resting places every few feet. One of my concerns about the covered resting areas is they will feel like bus stops that have no buses that stop at them. And so they'll have to be clearly signed as like, welcome to take a break, rest area, no buses are coming here. And in moving people through the industrial area, Sam's idea is a good idea, and bringing up like what's happening here, but have that signage across the street, like this is a working, fish processing operation with some information, and maybe that's where the kiosk is. And that signage needs to continue because they get to the train depot or they get off the train at the other depot and they move into the harbor and they stay fairly confused and they think that part of the harbor is the entirety of town. I sit in an office down there a couple days a week all summer, and every day I tell people half mile north or south, sorry, there's a whole rest of the really? They have no idea. And so I think we're talking about something, this is a chronic problem area, but the overall movement of people through Seward is a problem across the entire community. But the promenade feel, I think, might be something to think about. Let's go a little big on some of that movement through the harbor area. and maybe even covering from the harbor, from the cruise terminal exit to the roadway, making that a covered walkway area, which would make it really, really obvious. And I know we have wind and weather constraints that make that a little more challenging, but just to throw out a little bit of a brain dump, sorry.
No, you make a very good point. If I could just add, we have a gem of a system here, though it's not all comprehensively tied together. You know, if you think about getting from the Founders Monument all the way down along the waterfront, through the boat harbor, you know, around the lagoon, to Lakes Park, you know, and you know, the Jeep Trail on Marathon that's very popular now, and there's just you know, we could work on tying everything together to benefit the community, but you know, the topic now is Port Avenue, and I think, you know, whatever we can do to encourage pedestrians to be safe, and you know, if it takes covered walkways, you know, we could do that. I don't know again how that would fare in the winter. You know, painting, sidewalk improvements, widening, interpretive signage, all of it.
Yeah, I'd love to see some sort of the signage that leads you, maybe some sort of a storytelling about Seward. Each sign's gonna lead you, and you don't know what's, you know, it's gonna entice people to follow that trail by sign after sign that tells you a little bit more of a story about Seward along the way. I think that might be a nice idea.
Well, the Historical Society already has a lot of that going on, if you just kind of just draw them all the way through town.
I think you can talk to the harbor master about coverage over walkways that lives through the winter. They know where to get it.
You get about 20 years out of it.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's some information here on the shuttle route stops. And you mentioned earlier, Dwayne, about people wanting to take their baggage. So is there not luggage allowed on the shuttle, or is there not room for luggage on the shuttles?
No, there definitely, you can take your luggage with you on the shuttle if you wish. If you have, I mean, so we get a lot of visitors of varying capacity. Some travel light, they're youngsters, someone I would refer to as a youngster who's 40 and they got a backpack, you know what I mean? And you've got other folks who are just weighted down with big bags, and they're not gonna walk that distance, and so yeah, they do take their luggage on the shuttle. And you know, the depot, they'll receive luggage, check it in for people who might want to take the Coastal Classic at 6 p.m. that evening, and then folks can do whatever they want to do without taking their luggage with them. And, yeah. But yes, so you can, again though, it creates bottlenecks. It depends on the size of the ship and the weather and how many people end up standing in a line or opting to walk if it's a nice day.
From the board, do we have a consensus on what we'd like to do as far as recommendations? Well, I guess one of the things I was thinking about is, like, there's the city and the railroad. Are there any other organizations that could directly take action? Maybe the Historical Society would be a group to tie in.
Right. One suggestion that I would make is I think that this has been looked at somewhat, and the previous deputy city manager and Catalyst, and I think there are some very basic conceptuals that have been put together already. If we could get access to that material, that might be a starting point.
I know the city has the, Tony, sorry.
And I was just going to say, I think with the same thread you're going with there, we have a great starting point, and we've kind of tabled it just to see what direction the cruise ship is going to, after your facility is completed. So there's just some sort of cohesive plan, and then tied into with the going through the harbor, and then continuing on downtown as well too. So there's a flow with all of this.
And if I know we had quite a bit of changeover in the city. we used to have interactive signs, so people would come up, walk up to these signs, take the camera and their QR code of each different business and stuff like that, so, and that's a plus, and it was stopped a while back for some reason, I don't know why, but, yeah.
QR codes?
Yeah, there was a sign, there's some signs, there's one on the Harvard Building, one on the boardwalk, further down one by J-Doc, one by the hotel there in the corner. So as people walking, they can see them and they can look and see, and then, go up to see what business, they can see business, that has hours, operations, things like that, and that's something, go with the chamber on, to do.
Yeah, community development is working
Doing
with
that
Seward
again.
City Tours on new signage with QR codes, and I think Catalyst was involved in those stops, covered. So
Right, yeah.
It's picked back up. I don't
Okay.
know I think it's just now starting though.
Tony, can you share the starting points that the city is thinking of? Is that any information that you kind of like, what is that starting point? What does it look like?
To start this project,
Yeah.
looking at it as a possible start date, it's after the dock project is completed, to sort of tie in with that same flow and design of what they have. So we're not doing something completely different.
Okay.
If that makes.
So there's nothing like set in place of what you're gonna do? It's
No,
just
there's
that
not
you're
a start
planning
date.
to do something?
Yes. This was
Okay.
started several years ago and was sort of tabled right after COVID with, as far as money, and then also with that project so originally started then, has been sort of put on the back burner until now. So we're just kind of kicking the can, if you will, until.
So, just then a quick question, so the railroad then is responsible for, like, I guess the other picture might have been a better one to look at, but the railroad's gonna take care of up to the old coal terminal building?
Yeah,
As
so,
far as that
yeah.
beautification and-
Yeah, right, so as you're traveling east on Port Avenue, you get to some blue buildings, and you get to the coal facility, and that's where our property starts there, and we would, potentially look at this underpass idea, see if that works. We will have a path that will sort of parallel the main drive going in.
Where the sidewalk is.
We may need to improve it, depending upon what we do here, we could perhaps move it, over. But if we retain this pedestrian pathway, we could, like I said, perhaps use an underpass and then get people to the other side of the road without ever having to go across the drive surface, walk across the drive surface. But our properties essentially, let's see, this blue warehouse, kind of that line there.
Okay, and then from there, the city would take care of any beautification or signage or whatnot.
Correct.
You mentioned the tunnel, and I think the one great idea about the tunnel is if people are on a path that takes them under a tunnel before they even realize they're under a tunnel, they come back out, they're already on the other side of the road.
Right.
It's done, right? So then if they had something from there that kept them on that side of the road, the signs, the historic information, the QR codes, I think that would alleviate. So it wouldn't alleviate all of it. People are gonna walk wherever they wanna walk. You see that when you walk a trail and it says, do not go
Sure.
off the trail, but there's side trails, so.
Sure, on a port of call day, when people might be returning to the ship whenever they feel like it, they might, choose an alternate route on their return.
The advantage the tunnel has there, if it's feasible, I hope it is it's a really direct route, whereas the Seward Highway tunnel, I've lived here for 12 years, I've never been in it.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to get to it. I might do that today. That might be a good homework assignment, just walk through the tunnel, but, I wouldn't even know where to start, honestly, so I think
there in the
that.
corner.
Right there in the corner?
Right in the
Okay.
smart corner, you can
Direct
walk the
me now.
sidewalk up around.
Okay.
It goes underneath here, and it goes across, and then.
Okay, yeah. Yes, it doesn't lead, and it's no fault for the design there, it's just the way the land's laid out, but this Port Avenue tunnel is directly in that walking path, and it actually is a shortcut then, right? So it kind of cuts the corner just a little bit. I hope the engineers can figure out how to deal with the water. I've had to wade in there with about 4 feet before, so. It can be a little wet, but I guess going back to what Mr. Lear brought up there is that if we can relieve hydraulic pressure on some of those areas by drainage improvements, that area is all very, very porous, and I think any little improvement you make there is, would be a benefit to those problem areas around Port Avenue. Sounds like the railroad has quite a bit of interest in making that nice, though.
Yeah, right, this is our opportunity to do some improvements all along where we have the, the coal loading infrastructure, partly because we need the real estate as part of the cruise dock and terminal replacement project. But that will also, provide an opportunity for some landscaping and hopefully some engineering. Mr. Lear brought up many good points about, this whole area, the water table and the drainage and the existing stormwater system, and it all could use some work. We know from our experience that, when we have these rain events, the water table is essentially zero. I mean, the ground is saturated. And then when we have a tidally influenced area, there's everything we can do to improve drainage will be a benefit, certainly.
A thought comes to mind, to be too doom and gloom about it, but the Navy base is now gone across, and it's, is there any sort of continuous settlement of that area?
Are you talking about the observation building?
Well, the old, where they had the...
Across the bay?
Right across from the rail yard there used to be, there's a radio facility, I believe.
Right, yeah.
Subsided.
So all of that intertidal area out there, former Crawford subdivision, Steve probably remembers that. That's, we'll see. I mean, that river drainage and that delta is doing what it's doing.
Yeah, the airport too, I guess, is kind of just upstream of that. So I wonder if there's like a long-term caution that we should observe with that whole area. But it's interesting that I've watched a couple flood events through there, and like you say, the water table is at ground level. Much to do about that. But I guess as a board, though, I would like what is it that we want out of this work session?
I just think we talked about all the things that we can do, and I think that the harbor master's got in his head, he's got it locked in.
Okay.
He's got it locked in, and
yeah.
And they still have some stuff on file from when we worked with Catalyst on the things and stuff like that, and also with the Mural Society, we talked to them when we had that meeting. So, one of the council members is pretty, he really wanted this, so I'm pretty sure he'll keep pushing it. So
could we request that to be presented at one of the future meetings? That'd be nice to see where we were and know what options there are for this.
If nothing else, I think we could think about paint. I realize it's not a solution, but I think it could help. I think if we think about the traveled route that we want people to remain on, and whether it's salmon, something thematic or whatever, just practical.
Trains, you could do.
Wasn't it painted? They weren't pushed into the concrete when they made it. I think they were painted when they were there before.
The fish?
Yeah.
They were painted bluefish, and I think it was more of a reminder of, like, for pollutants, I believe, wasn't it?
Storm drains.
A fish waterway or something like that.
Yeah, they do that around storm drains that directly.
Yeah, just reminding people of, ties into the salmon spawning stream, I believe, was the.
And there used to be bear paws or something too that kind of led people all the way downtown, let them down the bike path. And a few years back, I remember that being trying to connect the harbor and the downtown area.
I think when they redid Port, and also 3rd Avenue, or excuse me, 4th Avenue, they didn't put them back because it was on old sidewalk. That was a long time ago.
Yes, right, yeah, sidewalks, I realize is very expensive. I mean, just, if you think about the 4th Avenue corridor from the harbor to the central business district, the sidewalks alternate on each side of the street, you know, half the time people are walking on gravel because they didn't go to the other side of the street. I mean, we could really think about our pedestrian pathways and,
Yeah, sidewalks.
Yeah.
I would add further comment for the city on that. That is something that I myself have noticed this winter. It's very difficult to use sidewalks in this town. So whether it's enforcement of snow clearing or growth or just sidewalk conditions in general, I think we know where the high traffic areas are, and you know, attention could be focused there. Including Port Avenue. I don't know. My memory serves. It's not in bad condition, but it's not great. Like you can see where maybe, you know, the curbs chipped and plows have hit it and things like that. And that if you're a passenger on a cruise ship, it looks kind of rough.
I know that Public Works has, and the city has it in their budget every year to do a certain amount of sidewalks.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So they trying to hit all the ones that's really tore up. And I mean, you notice in front of the, over here by, the park over here, they just redid that whole sidewalk last year. That was really bad. And then now they've been working on them. I know Doug's got a list of where they need to attack, so, and he's on it. So it's budgeted every year, as far as I know. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to invite any other comments from the citizens in this discussion. Nothing heard. All right. How about the board? Go around. City?
Just to tag along with what you were saying, Vice Chair Smith, if anybody in the group is a writer particularly and you wanted to compile thoughts or recommendations, you know, we would welcome that, and you're welcome at council meetings to report on anything that you want to highlight, so, yeah.
Okay.
It's not a homework assignment, it's just, you're welcome.
Absolutely. All right. So for the board, are we satisfied with the discussion? Close out the meeting?
Sure.
Without objection, we'll call this work session over and release everybody to your day. Thank you.